Hey there. All right. Oh my goodness. I am so excited because this is day 7, you all, of the refreshed, I won't say new, but the refreshed YouTube journey. We'll talk about what all that looks like. So, um, Patricia here, um, really excited about being able to continue to share all things, leadership, uh, self care for sure, advocacy, and um, I'm missing. Oh, building relationships. Hello, that of course that, but in a way to make sure that you are staying empowered and celebrating yourself, and telling my stories about what that looks like down through the years with all the experience. So basically, all of these things that I've done down through the years now coming back to the forefront as I, do some of the behind the scenes. And so that's where we kind of get to this whole thing about, what these uh, day 7 reflections look like for this refreshed YouTube journey and the 7 lessons that I've learned in these past 7 days. So the backstory is that I have been doing video for years. I think it's now well over 10 years, and had been doing a weekly, actually, got up to twice weekly live that was called, and still exists, Coffee Time Career Chat. I'm just not doing fresh things. And so it was talking about all things networking and relationship building professionally and career development and leadership, all those things. And had just been sharing. And for so long that a few years ago, I was like, hey, I need to back off because I'm getting tired because I just really just kept pumping out all this content all year long. And so then I started taking some time off in the summer. Then I started taking some time off in December. And then I got to the end of 2024 where I had done a whole new series for the fall, which I hadn't really done that in a while. It really took a lot out of me. And got to that point and I'm like, it, do I still want to do this way? Like, I loved my lives and I loved my coffee time career chats and all of that, but I was just feeling like, is this, the way forward? And I really wasn't sure, and wasn't quite sure what the next iteration needed to look like, but also had not been giving myself time to figure it out. So I decided, I'm like, okay, I'm pretty sure I have enough content to cover a year without recording something new. And if I didn't, we were just going to find out because that's what I decided to do. My challenge was for 2025 to go the entire year utilizing repurposed content from all of my years of recording Coffee Time Career Chats and still do them twice a week. And so that's what I did. And I did for 11 months. Got to December, the holidays, things get a little crazy. And I gave myself some grace. I was like, I'm not really going to worry about December because December I normally was doing repurposed or reshowing things anyway. So I did 11 months of repurposed content with existing work and only repeated one video. And that's because I messed up and didn't realize I had used it already. I was really aggravated by that too. So that was an accomplishment. I mean, in reminding myself of all that I had and the content and the resources that I had already, and to think about what I could do with it or how I could do it. And I had been sharing all of that content to YouTube, but it was not the primary purpose. I was streaming it using another platform and streaming it to LinkedIn, streaming it to YouTube, and I'm forgetting something. Oh, Facebook. But YouTube was really kind of like, storage. I hate to say it, but it really is how I was utilizing it. And I started learning and listening to folks and like, well, maybe I need to do something with this. I know that I wanted to uh, develop some digitized products, and that's still something that's in the works. More formally, done a little bit, but not as strenuously as I could. And decided that I wanted to be able to share more of my story and my background across more areas. I have been known for doing the professional relationship work and networking and doing it authentically, and that's not going anywhere. And then talking about some various aspects of leadership growth and development. That's not going anywhere. But there are pieces of me that I didn't feel was really showing because I was very, um, it was very, always planned for sure. I identified topics. I did them over 3 or 4 weeks, or maybe even longer. And so they were series, right? And there were multiple series. And so it was very structured. That's the word I was looking for. So it was always pretty structured, and I always knew where I was headed next. And then I would develop it and record it, batching a lot of times to conserve energy. I started learning that process. And then I just got to a point where I was like, okay, but what am I not getting to talk about? And what I realized what I was not getting to talk about were all the stories that I tell when I'm sitting down literally with a cup of coffee with someone one on one, or in a small group where I'm teaching, and some of the, the not so pretty stuff. I share some of those stories in the various, but only if it specifically applied and the story wasn't the point, right? There was the lesson and it was, here's an example of. But some of that, as far as the not so pretty pieces, I shared privately or in small groups, but not necessarily in that environment. And those are the things I wanted to be able to share, and to go back through my conversations and sharing with my clients and those light bulb moments. I definitely wasn't really getting to share that as much. And all of the experience that I had in nonprofit governance from the 20, 30 years, it's more than 20, closer to 30 years of nonprofit board service and governance that I've had, that literally was never really a part of the conversation. So I know I had this wealth of and depth of knowledge that I wanted to be able to share more of, but not just about, okay, go learn this, but literally, here are my experiences. Here are some things I learned from them. Here are some things I recommend that I don't recommend, and how they impacted me, and as well as how these things played into my personal life, my family life, my health. The health thing was a huge, huge piece of it, and have never really dug deep into that conversation. And so I wanted to be able to do that. So I was figuring, and so I started planning that I'm going to do that. But I started planning it as in a similar fashion as what I was doing before, which is very structured. So I had this grand plan that one of my friends literally just giggled at me, and not in a bad way. She's kind of like one of my accountability partners. And she was like, "And so, Patricia, are you sure about that?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm going to record 4 months of content in a month, and then I'm going to do all this editing, and then I'm gonna put it up, and it's gonna be ready to go by January." That did not happen. Not only did it not happen, I did not get anywhere near even recording. I did start planning topics and started planning like different things. So there was a structure. I was working through the structure, and then like what kind of order did I want to take things in? But there was this resistance to that because I'm like, well, the whole point is for it not to be as structured. So how do I make that work? And it was just going over and over in my head. And so it was just I was just getting stuck while I was trying to make things perfect and aligned in the way in which I had previously done them, but also recognizing that's not quite it. So the holidays come, and I'm like, I'm not, I'll get started in January and I'll work through it. But there was still this, not sure. Meanwhile, um, a creator that I follow, Glow Autonmo, she had started a a whole journey just for herself back in August. And I have been watching. I started watching, and it was on YouTube. Where she started the YouTube back up again. Similar thing. She had done it in the past, hadn't really paid a lot of attention to it, but was beginning to be very deliberate about it here for herself, and also to see, to reach some other goals, monetization, being able to utilize the content in other ways, all of that. Because that's really where I was headed with the process that I was looking at before. I wanted to do one main topic, long form, and then be able to utilize it many different ways on the other platforms. So kind of making that the focus and then going back, as opposed to this more scattered and really very energetically exhausting uh, pathway that I'd been doing before, even though I'd gotten pretty good at it, right? So my only issue with the way that Glow was doing it was I had no intention and no desire to record daily. I was just like, yeah, no, but that's not what I want to do. So I'm like, I'm gonna have to adapt this and figure out. But then I was like, but there was this appeal to what she was doing and being able to have those free flowing conversations still within her realm and niche, but it felt authentic. And I'm like, yes, I like that, but I'm not doing this every day. I was just like, I'm not doing this every day. And so that resistance to doing daily video actually prevented me from doing any more, because internally I was like, yeah, I think this might be it. Well, well, maybe I can do 2 or 3 days. But there was still this pull of like, no, that's not going to be it. And I was really like fighting it, quite frankly. I had questions about the alignment. Of course, all the excuses. I don't have the time or the energy for that. Well, it's not that I don't have the time. I have the time, but I didn't have the energy. And especially since, remember, I had not done fresh recorded content long form. I do smaller, short form video all the time still, but I had not done long term fresh in over a year. And considering I had been doing it for 8, 9, 10 years prior, that was huge, huge. So there was resistance to that. And I just kept going. So I finally got to a point where I was just like, you know, you got to work through this. Because I was like, I don't want to, quote, start from scratch. And even though I wasn't really starting from scratch, public speaking was not my issue. I've been doing public speaking since I was 14 years old. I've gotten to a point where literally, if you gave me a topic, I could make up something to talk about it. You gave me 15 minutes to sketch it out in my head, and then I could go with it, because that's literally what I was gifted with, the ability to do extemporaneous speaking, and competed in it, and wrote speeches for other people in office, elected office and appointed office, all of the things. So the speech and the content development, that's not it. It was the thought of but wait, like, what is this going to look like? And how could I do that every day? And that's when I realized, you know what, this was about starting without the detailed plan. And I had to come to grips with that because that's really what it was about. And to just do the pivot on the pivot. Like I was already pivoting anyways. And now it's time to just dig in and do the pivot on the pivot and recognize that, you know what, you're going to need to start this and you're going to need to do it without all the plans that you previously had. So I literally haven't looked. I won't say I've scrapped those plans. They will get adjusted, but for the most part, I scrapped it because doing daily video was not on the bingo card. That is not where I was headed. Doing long form content periodically was on the bingo card. And so this pivot to daily and figuring out what it is I would talk about on the daily, but without it being, so formal or so scripted, that was like made me uncomfortable. And I had to recognize it for what it was. So I just decided I had to jump in. And I started taking care of all the basics, right? So I had to find a spot in the house because that's always a thing. Well, I don't want to have to do all the cleaning to keep a place clean. And then I've got to worry about sound and setup and all of that. I had to work through that and not be worried about a spot that was going to be looking perfect. So that means I had to go find a new little corner. So I did. I came into my daughter's room where it was one of my old favorite chairs that I've had. I'm like, oh, this is going to be great. And came, set up the tripod stand, and pressed start that first day. The next day, I was like, okay, I gotta have some decorations because I need greenery and I need stuff. So I used what I have, which is, go check out that video. I'll put a link to it. I used what I have and I went into my scrapbooking supplies. I have tons and tons of things and pulled out one of those books that I had. And I was like, I'm going to use this and I'm going to use that. And then, oh, look, this coordinates with that. And I made my own little set of temporary decorations to pull things together so I'd have a spot. All right, press start. And then the day after that, I was like, okay, now I need to make sure that I don't forget stuff because I will. So this is my little checklist that I keep right here to make sure I have my things, my phone, my notes, if I'm using notes, my mic, which I still forget, um, the lights, my water, my tea, and the stand. So the basics, right? Making sure that I have that, and so I have that so that I can check it each day very quickly and move along. And will I forget something? Sure. And it'll be okay because this is not my first rodeo. Um, and so that gets me to the lessons learned. The first one being it's never too late to start fresh. And I'm deliberate by saying start fresh and not start anew because I'm not really starting from scratch. I'm not starting from new. I've had this work that I've been doing for years already, and that means something. And I already had a concept in place that I just pivoted from. So even though I felt, like, oh, I should have done this already, it wasn't quite time. And I don't want to jump ahead because that's another comment, but it wasn't quite time. And in my body and in my brain, they were not aligned. And it was like, no, something's still off. So guess what? Do it when it finally clicks, but it's never too late. That's the thing. It's never too late. The second thing is lesson learned is, as per usual, the biggest obstacle to you pursuing, to me pursuing the goal and the project that I wanted to pursue was staring at me in the mirror. And that's just the truth. Like, we are often our biggest obstacle to what's next. And it's just literally one of those moments where you're like, I'm tired of this going around in circles. We're just going to jump in and test the waters. And guess what? If it doesn't work, we can change it again. And that's literally where I got going. I'm like, okay, like, just quit fighting yourself and let's go. And acknowledging, not in a beat yourself up kind of way, in a much more of a curiosity way, and going through those things that I just talked about, which is, being curious, like, what is really going on here, and recognizing what the holdup really was, and being like, hey, guess what? It's some of these things are not going away, so you might as well get started anyways. And literally, that is something that I teach my clients all the time, or if I'm talking to someone who wants to work with me, and I'm like, look, you can put this off. I'm not saying you have to come work with me right now, but the question is going to be in 6 months, 12 months, and you haven't started. What is that? How are you going to feel? And so that's one of those things that I still have to remind myself of. It's like, in 6 months, 12 months, are you going to be like, oh, I should have started this. Oh, I wish I had. And it's time out for that. There's too much that needs to be shared. There's so many things that need to be done to establish legacy in this world, and to make the contributions that need to be made to support those who need the support. And I have a very specific, calling to do certain work, and to incorporate it and to put it out into the world in this next, phase of my life. And so it's got to be done. And sometimes you just have to tell yourself to be like, it's going to be all right. Let's go. Give yourself a little pat on the back, pat on the shoulder, and be like, it's all right. Let's go. Okay. So the third thing is about that pivot, which is take the leap and pivot on the pivot. That was the lesson. Like, quit overthinking it. It doesn't have to make sense to anybody else. And yes, I still struggle with that. I'm like, oh, well, what about it? Doesn't matter. It literally does not matter. It does not have to make sense to someone else. It only needs to make sense to you, and the vision that you have, and the dream that you're pursuing. So take the steps that need to be made in order to bring it to fruition. And so that's what I did. I was like, it doesn't have to make sense to anybody else. Like, it's not going to be perfect, which is what I was trying to script it out. Nope, this is going to be messy as hell, and let's go. You just gotta dive in and do the deed, right? So take the leap and pivot on the pivot. The fourth lesson is remembering to tell perfectionism to take a back seat. Oh my gosh. Y'all, every time I think perfectionist Patty is gone, and do not ever call me Patty because I really hate that name, so it's really me poking fun of myself. But her little head pops up there trying to overanalyze. I'm like, oh, but it has to be this, and what about that? And it's like, no. If I haven't learned anything in all of these previous years of doing this, it's like stuff will go wrong. Y'all, I have recorded video. I mean, had really great stuff to say and all of that, and the sound was not on. You know how frustrating that is? And what did I do? I did not give up. I probably walked away and said some things that can't be said on air. And then I came back and I recorded it again with the sound on. Because that's what it takes. When you have things that you want to get done, and goals that you want to achieve and all the things, it's time out for the expectation that everything's going to be quote just right. I literally had to start removing the word perfect out of my vocabulary. Like when someone said, "Oh, that's so perfect. That's just perfect." Like I actively removed it from my vocabulary and tried, because perfection often is an illusion. And so I would say, okay, this is good. And remembering that good is good enough. A lot of times, good is good enough. And perfect is relative. So it's like, okay, this is perfect for now. This is perfect for this moment, but not for like running through it in your head over and over and over again, because perfection is never going to be. Things will change. Just as you get it, quote, perfect, it'll change again. So you got to tell perfectionism, take a walk. Uh, and that's a journey. Every time I think I've done a great job of it, it comes back, and I'm like, oh, really? Okay, fine. All right. Number five. Number five is the lesson learned is that your old skills do not suddenly disappear when you're leveling up, because they are your at your core and your foundation. And this is that piece, again, going back to that concept, that idea that you're not starting fresh, because you are not. I was not. Again, I've been speaking since I was 14. I've been doing videos for the last 10 years, twice a week. I got to a point where I was doing it twice a week, recording. So there was nothing new in that. This was just in trying to engage in this pivot of how I wanted to present myself on this platform, and starting with this platform first rather than the others and how I was doing it before. That is what is different, right? My old skills, all that stuff is still there. It had not disappeared. And so that's that reminder to myself when, again, you start getting in your head. I was getting in my own head, getting in my own way. But, oh, well, what about this? What about that? Whatever. I'm not even using the big, huge light. I have tabletop, um, a tabletop ring light, and that's the one that I'm using right now. Because why? It doesn't have to be perfect. Adapt and move along. And at some point, I may move things, but I don't know. This is working for now. Because what matters is what's being shared, and getting that out into the world, and making sure to continue to um, be creative, to utilize that, to engage in that thought work, and to do those things and share those things that will build people up, and have them, recognizing that, hey, I can do this, whatever it is. So that's that. Number six, sixth lesson learned is um, re-engage. I wrote this down as re-engage creativity is so rejuvenating. Y'all, I did not realize I would get so motivated and excited about doing it again. Now, if I've got have a few moments where I was tired, yes, and you're like, okay, you got to go record this video before your energy shifts. I almost quite didn't make it today, even though earlier I was like, oh, when I was all jazzed, but I didn't have my notes yet. So, here's the thing, I'm still working through the rhythm of this. I'm still working through the rhythm, and it's a new rhythm, and that's okay, because I'm like excited to do it, and I'm like looking forward to it. And so that is like feeding my soul, feeding the inner, and giving me the energy to say, I can work through this. I can do this now, right? And really adjusting very quickly to making it happen. So definitely engage your creativity with whatever the project is. I don't care what it is. It's something I've always talked about, and the importance of it. and something I'll share on another time. I don't want to get too much detail on that, but be creative. Do something that takes you outside the box just for fun, that feeds your soul, so that you can have the energy that you need to pursue whatever it is you want to pursue at the next level. The seventh lesson, so 7 lessons, 7 days. The seventh lesson for me is recognizing that waiting from out of fear or trying to get things perfect is so debilitating. Yes, know that, right? But ensuring alignment and clarity is absolutely empowering. So there's a fine line between that, right? You can be using the excuse that, oh, I'm waiting, I can't do this quite yet because you're scared or trying to get things just right or perfect. No, that's not what we're doing. But waiting because it doesn't feel aligned or you're still seeking clarity, that's different. And I felt that and I knew that. And I was ignoring what I felt deep down about, yeah, you should just go start doing this daily. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. And trying to work around it. Well, that's why I was not feeling aligned because I was ignoring my gut. Hello. And recognizing that, like, yes, you don't have to know where this is going to end up. You just need to know this is where you need to start. And once those two things came together and that alignment and that clarity on that were like lockstep in place, I was like, I got to do it. Let's go. I don't know what I'm going to be talking about, but not because I lack tons of things to talk about. I mean, the conversations I have, even just by myself, would be like great. I was like, so there's no lack for it, but it's a matter of, again, when you let fear and fear of the unknown and perfectionism get in the way, it can make it seem like, oh gosh, this can't be this can't be done, or it's not time yet. But it is time, and I knew it, and so that aligned moment is just so empowering. I think that's also why I became just so energized by it. Because once I recognized it, once I knew, I was like, let's go do it. And so I have. And I'm super excited about it. And I'm looking forward to whatever is next. But what is next is my next, not hurdle's not the word I'm looking for, but benchmark. That's the word I'm looking for. The next benchmark is 100 days, which I've counted out, shows up about the second week of May. I have to go back and look. So 100 days will be uh, almost mid-May for me, and I'm looking forward to see where we end up with that, how much I'll be able to do, and then what pieces of things that I need to do to help support it, right? Because of course I want to, oh, I need to make sure I do the sound right and I do all these things, which is why I'm not doing editing. I never did editing on my networking videos and my coffee chat videos, and so I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with not doing the edits because I don't want to get lost in that and get caught up in that because I could and I would, and that's not where I'm headed. So these are all. I was like, whatever. So that's not even it. But some of the other things that I need to do in order to clean up the channel and the back end stuff, right? Because it's got to be done. And it's reminding myself and remembering, like, hey, this is the work now. This is the work. So what do you need to do to support yourself um, to show up authentically? I was about to say at your best, but it's not always going to be at my best, but authentically and the best that I can every day, and put stuff out there that will be appreciated and seen as valuable over time. So I'm excited about seeing where this is going to head. I'm going to start doing a little bit of planning, identifying topics, keeping a running list. It's, some of the things that I can do that I have been doing, but will do more fully, you know, um, blocking out time to do prep and helping to develop a rhythm. I'm still trying to find the rhythm. I find that I probably do better if I record earlier in the day. And so I need to try to honor that, which also means setting things back up because I'm not a morning person. There will be no early morning recordings unless like I'm traveling or something like that. That's not going to happen. However, it does require me to get moving a little bit sooner or earlier than I otherwise would in order to meet my markers to be able to record by a certain time and also allowing for whatever else is going on in the world because hello, life. So those are some of the things that I've recognized so far that I'll be working on as we move forward, and I'll be looking forward to sharing more things on those various topics to help empower folks who are looking to achieve their dreams and goals and transition to whatever's next for them in a healthy way, in an empowered way, and maybe even like have a little fun while you're doing it. You can do that. It can be done. All right. Okay. So there we are. Those are the 7 lessons for my first 7 days of doing YouTube afresh. And I look forward to following up. Tomorrow, I'm super excited. So the next one we will be talking about goals and goal setting again, part 2, I'm calling it, because I'm going to talk about what I did to get to my new reading goal, but finishing my first book after adapting how my approach for my daily reading just for pleasure, for growth, whatever. So I'm excited about that one because that really revved me up as well, knowing that I was going to accomplish that this week at the same time. So, all right, take care. I'll see you next time. Bye.